After a brief hiatus, Google has finally unveiled its flagship Pixel range of devices in India. Dubbed the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro, the smartphones come equipped with a brand new in-house Tensor G2 processor, which enables a plethora of camera features including super high-res zoom and remarkable low-light photography. Understandably, there is a lot of commotion on the interwebs pertaining to the Pixel 7 Pro's camera chops, which is why, today, I will be testing this smartphone against the iPhone 14 Pro Max to see if it can hold a candle against the best the industry has to offer. Let's kick things off by taking a closer look at our competitors' specs. Starting with the Pixel 7 Pro, the device comes equipped with a 50-megapixel main sensor, which works alongside a 12-megapixel ultra-wide snapper and a 48-megapixel telephoto sensor with 5x optical zoom range. For selfies, the device gets a 10.8-megapixel camera up front. The iPhone 14 Pro Max, on the other hand, features a 48-megapixel main sensor, which works in tandem with a pair of 12-megapixel ultra-wide and telephoto snappers. Up front, the smartphone gets a 12-megapixel camera to click selfies. With the specs out of the way, let's take a closer look at our competitors' photography chops. Now, right off the bat, you should know that both phones click remarkably similar images in broad daylight. If anything, the Pixel 7 Pro overturns an image with a warmer color tone, whereas the iPhone 14 Pro Max output offers a noticeably cooler tint. The photos are equally detailed towards the center too. If anything, the mud near the pavement appears a tad reddish in the 7 Pro's snap, which goes on to show that the smartphone favors warmer color tones. The iPhone 14 Pro Max's image, on the other hand, is more color accurate, and the device has rendered the shade of the dirt authentically. Here's another example which substantiates my findings further. Both phones have brought about the elements in the frame rather well. Consequently, be it zooming into the center or panning to the left or the right, you'll find similar details across both photos. That said, the color of the brown pot hanging by the tree has been rendered more accurately in the 14 Pro Max's photo. The Pixel 7 Pro has, yet again, overturned an image with a warmer color palette, and correspondingly, you'll notice a reddish tinge emanating from the pot's surface. The iPhone 14 Pro Max edges in front of the Pixel 7 Pro as far as wide-angle images are concerned. Now, do note that the differences in the photos isn't night and day. On the contrary, the iPhone 14 Pro Max's snaps offer slightly better corner sharpness. What's more, I noticed that the Pixel 7 Pro's sensor would add a pinkish tinge to the images too. As an example, you'll notice that the shrubs towards the periphery of the frame retain their sharpness in the iPhone 14 Pro Max's snap. Similarly, the iPhone 14 Pro Max's snap squeezes more details around the buildings in my apartment complex. The Pixel 7 Pro's composition, on the other hand, has a noticeable pink hue layered on the building to the far right. The same effect can also be observed on the white car positioned towards the center of the snap. Moving on, let's take a closer look at the telephoto snaps from the two phones. First and foremost, you should know that both the phones can take a crop of the main sensor's output to deliver a 2x zoom photo, which is almost on par with what you get with a dedicated 2x optical sensor. Interestingly, the 2x zoom shot from both the phones is neck and neck. In fact, barring the image's respective color science, you'd be hard-pressed to find any other differences in the photos. For instance, you'll notice that the petals of the red flower appear equally sharp and detailed on both the phones. Now, Pixel tends to underexpose bright, vivid hues, and correspondingly, you'll notice that the red color of the flower appears a tad different in the 7 Pro's snap. The iPhone 14 Pro Max's image, on the other hand, gives a more realistic representation of the scene. At the same time, the photo doesn't muck up the red hue, which is great. The same is true for the 2x shot of the yellow flower as well. Be it the bokeh effect or the definition in and around the petals, the Pixel 7 Pro and the iPhone 14 Pro Max have overturned astoundingly similar images. That said, the iPhone 14 Pro Max's snap has, yet again, reciprocated the color of the flower to a T. The Pixel 7 Pro's snap looks quite appealing too, although the smartphone has subdued the vivid yellow tones of the petals ever so slightly. Understandably, iPhone overturns a slightly sharper image at 3x zoom as the device gets a dedicated telephoto sensor with 3x optical zoom capabilities. That said, Pixel's output isn't all that far behind. For instance, you'll notice that both phones have done justice to the 3x shot of the pink flower. Now, in typical Pixel fashion, the 7 Pro's output is a tad underexposed and consequently, the composition appears a bit gloomy. Be that as it may, both the images appear equally sharp and retain similar details even in a 100% crop. The iPhone 14 Pro Max can hold its ground against the Pixel 7 Pro's dedicated 5x telephoto sensor too. In fact, for the most part, you can get away with similar-looking images at 5x zoom from both phones. Bear in mind that the Pixel 7 Pro's output is a tad sharper, however, you'll have to pixel peep to make out the differences in the snaps. As an example, if you look at the images, you'll notice that both the phones have reciprocated the details around the petals of the pink flower rather well. Furthermore, while Pixel's output is slightly sharper, the iPhone's composition has more truer-to-life colors. With that said, the Pixel 7 Pro takes a definitive lead when clicking images at 10x zoom or beyond. Here, you'll notice that the pink flower buds appear significantly sharper in the 7 Pro's photo. The scenery remains unchanged at 15x, which is the highest zoom offered on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Here, you'll notice that the transmission tower appears significantly sharper and more structured in the 7 Pro's snap. I also noticed that the iPhone 14 Pro Max would introduce highlight clipping at high zoom levels. What's more, the Pixel 7 Pro can zoom up to 30x as well, which gives it additional brownie points. It's hard to pinpoint a clear winner this time around. You see, the cameras on both the iPhone 14 Pro Max as well as the Pixel 7 Pro have their strengths and weaknesses. For the most part, the iPhone 14 Pro Max click a more color-accurate image. At the same time, the Pixel 7 Pro offers superior zoom capabilities. And while the iPhone 14 Pro Max ultra-wide sensor outputted slightly better stills, the Pixel 7 Pro retook the lead in low-light scenarios. All said and done, buyers opting for either of the two smartphones will find plenty to like about their respective camera setups. So which smartphone do you think is the best overall? Let us share your valuable thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See you for the next time. Peace out.